everybody, my name is Kim Hargrave and I'm the Education Director here at the Denison Pequot Seacoast Nature Center. And today I'm really excited to talk about life cycles and the life cycle of a frog in particular. Now we know that all animals have a life cycle. If you think about a turtle, a baby turtle hatches out of its egg and it looks like a little turtle and it grows into a big turtle. But frogs are completely different. They hatch out of their eggs and they don't look anything like a frog. So we're going to talk about its whole life cycle today. Now, frogs start their lives out as an egg. All right, the female frog mates with the male and she lays these eggs. And when you see frog eggs, I chose actually not to collect frog eggs today to show you. And the reason why is when you take the frog eggs out of nature, they sometimes can fall apart and they're really hard to put back into the wild and have them stay in their place. So to protect our native frogs, I left the frogs there, but I've got some pictures of some frog eggs right here. Actually, I'm lying, they're salamander eggs. That's what I had a picture of. And so, but they're very, very similar. And so amphibian eggs and frog eggs look and feel like a big ball of jello. So not that I'm saying to do this, but if you ever really wanted to stick your hand in some jello or stick your hand in some jelly, that is what frog eggs feel like. And depending on the species of frog, the egg can look a little bit different. Some frog eggs, you lift them up and they'll actually drip through your fingers, and some you can hold like a little ball in your hand. And that whole jelly mass that's around the eggs is protecting the babies that are developing inside. So when you see the clear eggs and you see the little black spots in there, those little black spots are all going to turn into tadpoles. And what's even cooler is the amount of eggs one frog can lay. A female bullfrog can lay 20,000 eggs. That is absolutely incredible. And even a tiny little wood frog can lay a couple hundred eggs. So this is a good time of year to go out and look and see if you can spot any amphibian eggs. Again, don't collect them, but take a look at them, make a note in your head where they are, and go and visit them every couple days and see what differences you notice. You'll actually see those little black spots growing bigger and bigger into tadpoles. All right, so once they hatch out of their egg, and it depends on the species, how long it takes them to get from the egg to hatching out, and it depends sometimes on the temperature of the water. Bullfrog eggs can take anywhere from 3 days to a week and a half or so to hatch out of their eggs. And bullfrogs will start mating here usually in about May. So May, June, and July is when they start mating. And they're going to hatch out of their egg, and those tadpoles are only going to be about this big. And they're actually going to start swimming around and mostly consuming little plant matter. Bullfrog tadpoles grow for 2 years before they start changing into bullfrogs. And so I have a bullfrog tadpole here that I collected, and after my program today, we're going to go put it back in the pond. So I'm going to take him out. He's wiggling around a little bit, because remember, he's holding his breath right now. So this is last year's bullfrog tadpole right here.
And if people come for a walk around the duck pond, they would likely see lots of these little ones swimming, right, Kim?
That's right. Right now we have tons of bullfrog tadpoles out there. So this guy hatched last year. He is going to go another year before he starts to change into an actual frog. So he's going to grow even bigger. Now when you look at this tadpole, I'm going to take him out one more time. All right. I want you to see what you notice about him. Do you notice how he's round up front? How he's got a long tail? He's got tiny eyes. He's got little lips. And he's actually breathing with gills, just like a fish does. All right, so I'm going to put him right back down into the water so he can breathe again. All right, and what's going to slowly start to happen is he's going to go through a metamorphosis. And that is the word that we use for the life cycle of a frog. When an animal does a complete change, it goes through that metamorphosis. And if you think about it, you might know another animal that goes through a metamorphosis. Butterflies go through a metamorphosis. Actually, lots of insects do. All right, so he is going to start to grow and his body shape is going to change. And I've got some plastic tadpoles here to show the difference. So the first thing you will notice in a frog metamorphosis is back legs starting to grow. They grow right on either sides of the tail. Now, the same time that is starting to happen, their body starts to get longer. And I'm going to show you another bullfrog tadpole that we caught that is going to change into a frog this year. And it's going to start to change really soon would be my guess. Let me see, actually. Do you see how he looks different? Look how much bigger he... Okay. We're going to let him be in the water for a minute. He's not overly happy about being out right now. And if you look at him very carefully, you can see how long his body is compared to the other tadpole that had a nice round shape. And that's because he's starting to get more of that frog body shape. And it's going to be hard to see on camera, but he actually is starting to grow tiny, tiny little legs right down here. His little legs are starting to grow.
Oh, we can see.
All right. So this guy is going to be a frog in about, I would say by July, he'll be a frog, definitely. Okay, so the first thing that happens, body starts elongating, back legs start to grow. All right, the next thing that you really tend to notice after the back legs get nice and big is the front legs actually grow. Think about this for a minute. Think about the shape of our tadpole right here and where those legs are going to appear. The legs actually appear right through the gill slits. So their legs slide through gill slits. So I want you to think about a tadpole for a minute. All right, can you imagine growing legs through your face? All right, think about that for a minute. You're growing legs right underneath your eyes. And so those front legs start to grow. But that's not the only difference with a tadpole to a frog. Think about frogs. We know what they eat. They like to eat bugs. They have to have really big mouths to eat bugs. Those tadpoles have tiny little tadpole lips. All right, but a frog has a really, really large mouth. So the mouth is changing. It's growing bigger and bigger as it grows and as it goes through its metamorphosis. The other thing that's happening is his eyeballs are moving. Look at our tadpole right here. It's got little tiny eyes. All right, tiny, tiny eyes, so much so that we hardly notice. He's like, I don't want to show you my eyes. All right.
Oh, there we go.
And then a bullfrog has big eyes on top of his head. So I want you to think about that. Can you imagine as you grew bigger, your eyes went from the side of your face, they grew up your head, it ended up on the top of your head when you were grown up? All right, that's what's happening to frogs.
We have a question from Madison who wants to know, how long does it take for the tadpole to grow his legs when growing through metamorphosis?
So it depends on the species. For the bullfrog, usually takes about 6 weeks. Once you see the back legs appear, you can say about 6 weeks and it will be a little froglet. All right. So the last thing that was really happening too is as those legs are growing through their gill slits, they're not going to be able to breathe through those anymore. That means they have to start developing their lungs inside their body. So bullfrogs have lungs, they have to come to the air to breathe. So their gills are disappearing, they're growing legs, their mouth is getting bigger, their eyes are moving, they're growing legs. And the last thing that happens is their tail starts to disappear. Now, the tails don't just fall off one night. What happens is they actually get reabsorbed into their body. So you start to see them with tiny little tails just like that. All right. And what happens is, I want you to think about it. It takes a lot of energy to grow legs, to move eyeballs, to grow lungs, all of those things. These guys actually can't eat enough to keep up with the energy demands of changing their bodies. So their tail is full of all sorts of fat, and that actually gets absorbed into their body and actually works as energy for them as they go through their metamorphosis. So it's a really cool thing. When they're tadpoles, they need those tails to swim, and then as they change into a frog, they use those tails as energy so that they can become an adult frog. All right, so there's our plastic frog. Let me get out our big bullfrog here, though, so that you can actually see it and really get a good idea of the difference between a tadpole and a frog. Just so you know, bullfrogs can live in the wild 8 or 9 years. Okay, in captivity, they can live over 15 years. So even once they turn into a little froglet, you know, they just finished their metamorphosis, they have many, many years of growing bigger. And it's usually another year or two after they become a frog before they're old enough to actually mate and have young. Let's see.
While you're pulling that out, we have a question from Ashley who would like to know, where do you find bullfrog tadpoles?
So come to the Nature Center. This is a great time of year to try to spot the bullfrog tadpoles. The water's really still, and because the water's cold, they're trying to sit in some of the shallower areas of the pond. And so if you just look in the water, you'll see them sitting on a muddy bottom. You'll see what I did right here is I actually put a few leaves in the water here. Now the bucket that I collected them in this morning had a lot of mud and leaves in it. So if you just kind of walk down by the edge of the pond and you'll see them sitting there, you'll see them resting on logs and things like that.
Especially on a nice sunny day.
Sunny
I know
days.
several walks that I've gone on, you can see hundreds of them all around the duck pond. So that's a great spot.
It's an easy spot, but if there's a pond near your house, bullfrogs are one of our more common frogs to see. So their tadpoles are bigger, so it's a good time to see them. Also, right now in our vernal pools, the wood frog tadpoles are hatching, so you can take a look at those as well. They are a lot smaller tadpoles and only take a few months to go through their metamorphosis. So I wanted just to hold up my frog and hold up my friend the tadpole right here. You know what, I'm going to hold up this guy so that we can talk about him for a minute. So look at the difference. Can you imagine looking like this and turning into this?
We're going to zoom in on our bullfrog, full bullfrog, and then go back to our tadpole. So you can see quite the difference from one to the next.
All right. Now the other reason why I wanted in particular to show you this tadpole is that the tip of his tail is missing. All right. And that can happen. All right. Remember what I said? I said mom bullfrog lays 20,000 eggs. No, we said you can see a lot of tadpoles at the pond, but you're not seeing a million tadpoles there by any means. All right. What happens is some of the eggs get eaten, and a lot of the tadpoles, when they first hatch, they also get eaten.
That ties into a wonderful question that came in from Ari, who would like to know what eats tadpoles.
All right. Tadpoles are on the menu for a lot of animals. So fish will eat tadpoles. Large insects that live in the water, like predaceous diving beetles and back swimmers, they will all eat tadpoles. Fish will eat tadpoles, other frogs will eat tadpoles, birds will eat tadpoles, possums, raccoons, just about anything will find a tadpole a very delicious snack. Even water snakes will. So lots of different things eat these tadpoles pretty much the entire time that they're growing. So they've got 2 years that they've got to survive as a tadpole. And then once the frogs all finish metamorphosizing, first we'll see lots and lots of them. And then every day when we go out, there'll be a few less. And that's because usually the great blue heron comes in and discovers them, or an otter comes in and discovers them. The snakes come in and discover them. Turtles come in and discover them. It's pretty tough to be a frog. All right. So these guys have absolutely amazing life cycles. And take a look. Spring is a great time to learn more about frogs. Find a pond near your house. Take a look at them. Watch videos online of them going through that metamorphosis, because it is fascinating.
All right. Any other questions that we have from the world of Facebook before we sign off for the day? Kim, what is your favorite amphibian?
My favorite amphibian, I think it's the red-spotted newt. And I have to say, I was out yesterday hiking and I saw a bunch of red-spotted newts actually sunning themselves in the water as well. But bullfrogs are cool too.
All right. Oh, and we do have a question. Amy would like to know what bullfrogs eat.
So
aside from each other.
Yes,
as
aside
we just
from each
learned.
other. So bullfrogs as adults, take a look how big that mouth is. Anything he can fit in his mouth, he is going to eat. So mostly insects, spiders, worms, things like that. But
sometimes ducklings, unfortunately.
A tiny, tiny duckling, a little hummingbird, a baby turtle. He would try to go for all those things. Even a fish sometimes. It's pretty incredible to watch. So, all right. So really, really cool things.
All right. Wonderful. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in today. If you join us tomorrow morning, for anyone that saw the other day, we are going to be focusing on Rosie the pigeon. We'll be tuning in at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So join us then. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. See you then.